and a BNI member. And I don't know if there's a person in Marietta, Georgia, who I met through this, and an agent from my office needed someone in Marietta, so I just connected them two together.
Yep.
Had I not done this, I had no resource down in Marietta.
It's awesome. And, I've done 2 referrals so far since I started my Zoom meetings. Over the last, I've received 2. So it's just, getting to know people a little bit better, deeper, and it's just circumstance, right? Charles, you were able to come to our networking event in Dallas, which was cool. Diana, I cold called. Didn't I cold call you, Diana?
You did. Yeah. When I was dropping my daughter off at college.
And it was completely unrelated. I was speaking in Sacramento at an event, and I cold called her because she was a BNI and Keller Williams agent, and asked her to come and everything else. So it's just, this is a network that I feel, in my personal opinion, doesn't have great connectivity, or it hasn't until we've really implemented a lot of this.
Right.
I didn't know a BNI agent anywhere else in the country, and so I started calling through people and talking with people, and then the events changed my world. So once I started doing in-person live events, I really started to get to know people, and that's where it's been a huge value on our end, and I think other people have seen that too.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get started, if that's all right.
Yeah.
This one's going to be more casual. I'm excited to have a little bit more laid back.
Glad I just found.
I just told Charles, my first one of these was 85 people in the room, which is almost unmanageable. It's tough, and we'll get to know each of you a little bit better. So with the size of group that we have, does everybody want to go around and just tell us your name and what chapter you're with and what location you're in?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charles.
Yep. Charles Olson, located in Brooklyn, New York. My chapter name is BIG, B-I-G. I forgot what the acronym stands for.
But it's big.
Just BIG. I cover all of Brooklyn, New York, all of Staten Island, New York, and I do cover parts of Queens, and I can cover Manhattan. I'm part of every real estate board that does business in the city, New York City, that is. And, if you ever know anybody coming to or from Brooklyn, New York, please give me a call.
Great. Diana?
So Diana Martinez, I'm with Keller Williams here in Elk Grove, California, and I basically cover all of the Sacramento County region, Sacramento and some of the surrounding counties also. So Sacramento, Elk Grove, out to Galt, Lodi, Tracy, and then all the way up to Auburn. And I am with the Elk Grove Harvesters chapter.
Great. Thanks, Diana. Tanya?
Hi, I'm Tanya Thompson. I'm with Realty Executives in the Metro Milwaukee market. My BNI group is Boundless Business, and I cover most of southeastern Wisconsin, primarily Milwaukee County, Waukesha County.
Wonderful. Thanks, Tanya. How about you, Trish?
Hi, guys. I'm Trish Pierce. I am in Boston, Massachusetts, but I live in Cape Cod. So if you're ever down in the Cape, love to have you. I am in the tourist area in Cape Cod, and I have a strong Boston accent. So great. If you guys ever want to come for lobster and whatnot.
Nice.
Great, Trish. Thank you. Jess?
I'm Jess Jurek. I'm with Keller Williams, Scranton Wilkes-Barre. I service northeastern Pennsylvania, so Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Pocono area. And I'm with BNI Diamond City.
Wonderful. How about you, Casey?
My name's Casey Marganell, obviously. It's all over the place, but I'm in Northern Virginia, just outside of DC, McLean, Virginia. We do high-end luxury real estate in this area. I was 25 years with RE/MAX, and for the last six years, I've had my own little boutique brokerage, and I am with McLean Business Forum.
Wonderful. Carolyn?
Hi, I'm Carolyn Hasser. Sorry, I just jumped in here. I am in Mobile, Alabama. I'm with Roberts Brothers Real Estate, and we are, I guess, a subsidiary of, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, I just got here, so I don't even know what the question is. Sorry.
Just who are you? What part of town do you service? And if you want to state your company as well, I think you covered it.
Okay. We cover Mobile and Baldwin County along with the beach.
Excellent. And Dawn, you just jumped on. You want to introduce yourself and where you're from?
Yeah, sure. Sorry I'm late. Well, hi, BNIers. I'm with Danbury, Connecticut, Ridgefield, Connecticut, with Keller Williams. And it's been a little tricky. We started our Zoom meetings with the group, and it's been great. I'm getting ready to do my presentation. Also, I think I read on the website on Facebook that somebody else did some presentations, and they went well. So this is exciting. So nice to meet everyone, and we'll have to connect.
Awesome. Got a good cross section of locations here, which I love.
Yes.
So I'm Brad Seaman. I'm in San Diego. I started the Facebook networking group about 2.5 years ago. I'm doing in-person meetings across the country, mostly tied to Keller Williams events, just because that by default is what I travel to on a regular basis. We're also speaking on the West Coast in a little circuit amongst a couple different BNI members and Keller Williams offices. Not tied in not promoting Keller Williams, it just happens to be what is most like kind for me. So we service all of San Diego County, which is a pretty large area. So if you think Southern California, or truly if you think anywhere in the country that's BNI, just reach out to me. I have personal relationships with hundreds of members that are BNI across the country. So love to help connect you or make sure you post outbound referrals in the networking group. Is anyone in here not in the Facebook group?
I don't think I am.
Well, now's your chance. I'll text you, or I'll put in the chat box here the actual link. It's a great opportunity for resources on your presentation, on an outbound referral, or if you're trying to look for someone that is BNI across the country. We've got about 1,000 members now that are in the Facebook group, and we're doing our best to continue to grow that through these Zoom calls and everything else. It's been a really great resource for us and a huge source of business. And I think, Charles, you were saying you placed an outbound referral this week.
Yeah, it wasn't even me. It was an agent in my office. She's a new agent. She needed a listing agent who could also handle the buyer in Marietta, Georgia. And the first thing I do when I get someone who needs a referral, either whether for myself or an agent in my office, and I'll go to my contacts and I'll search for the service area that they're looking for, and I'll see who I already have established a relationship with. And sure enough, when I put in Marietta, about 6-7 people popped up that I knew from Marietta, Georgia, who were real estate agents. But one of them was a BNI agent. And so I chose that person to refer. Just because my notes weren't, I keep detailed notes on all my contacts, and I didn't have really detailed notes on anybody else, but I figured, I might as well get a double whammy, a Keller Williams agent and a BNI agent. So I know they're double vetted, in my opinion. And so I referred that agent. Hopefully they'll get 2 transactions out of it.
Awesome. And your other option is, if you don't have that in your phone, you can post your outbound referral in the group, and whether it's myself or someone else that's made connections amongst BNI members nationally, they'll jump in and share who the best person is or someone that you can connect with. So feel free to use that as a tool. And then also anything BNI related, like the goal of the Facebook group is not to promote your own listings, not to spam everybody with what you have going on, but how can you add value? Are there questions that you have about the Zoom meetings and how things are going? I mean, Dawn, you said you have a presentation coming up. There's great ideas that are flowing through these masterminds and other things to be able to effectively prepare for your presentation as well. So I popped the link in there for those of you that are not in the group already. Jot that down or click on it to answer a couple questions, and we'll let you into the group. Cool. All right, so this is your meeting. I'm here to help guide what I've learned so far from all these agents across the country, but this is for you. So what challenges are you seeing in your BNI chapters? Let's start with BNI. What are you seeing that is really difficult with the Zoom meetings? What can we help with?
I'll go. We had I don't know if we did twice already. I guess we did it last week and this week. And it actually, I got to tell you, it went very well. for some reason, it seemed that the members of my chapter were a little bit more lively. Maybe that's because they got a little bit more sleep because they didn't have to commute to the venue. And so everybody was very engaged. There was one person that was having a little bit trouble with the video and couldn't get him on video and just voice only, but I think that's the device that he was using. But I found it worked really well. But that same person brought up a question. He wants to invite a guest to our BNI group, and he's wondering if it was appropriate to do it while we're doing it all on Zoom. And I said, absolutely. But then he brought up a point saying that this person who services the Brooklyn, New York City area actually lives out on Long Island. And if anybody knows the New York metro area, at 6, 7 in the morning, that could take well over an hour to get there. You know, would it be appropriate to invite this person? So at least for the time being, yeah, it does make sense. Maybe she'll see the value and wake up early enough to come. But it started to make me wonder if incorporating some aspect of a Zoom meeting, even at an in-venue event, might actually become the norm down the road, in case there's 1 or 2 members that can't make it on a for either short-term or long-term basis, to allow them to participate and still be a member of the group. Just a thought. You know, I don't know what will eventually happen. It really just depends on how long this thing goes on in the country. You know.
So I personally hope not.
Yeah, I think everybody.
I mean, I don't want to give anybody an out from not attending a meeting, is my personal opinion. But what we found was it's easier right now to invite visitors into our chapter than normal, because the commitment level is a little lower. The access and the desire for people to want to belong to something right now is at a high. And so inviting visitors, I mean, we had 5 visitors in our last meeting. It was really straightforward and people were looking for that connection. And it made it simple. And hopefully we're going to convert a couple of those here in the coming days. I don't know what it looks like quite yet, but I know the visitor team's working on it. So I think absolutely it's appropriate. A couple of the best practices that came out of the last mastermind were make sure that person feels like they belong before the meeting starts.
Right.
So if your visitor host team can reach out and call them out in the meeting before everybody gets going, they'll feel a lot more connected in a part of the process than just speaking for 10 seconds and saying what they do and who they are. Because I think it feels very impersonal if everybody in the meeting's chattering and talking amongst each other, and then that person's just kind of sitting on the sideline. I think that's a key thing. We started playing music in the beginning of our meetings and muting everyone so they can't talk to each other. And that way, when the visitor shows up, we can announce them, put them out there, and everybody can say hi. But, you know, what normally happens if you just let it go is everyone talks about nonsense. Until the meeting starts, and then the president has to take the role. So it's not really effective networking anyways beforehand, in my opinion. And so we found that if you kind of announce those, it's almost a reason to have visitors, is so you can announce them in the beginning and get people going that early in the morning.
Right.
So I actually have a question real quick. So we just did our first Zoom meeting last Tuesday. And I mean, the format's really good. I really do like it. It flowed pretty well. Having said that, we only gave all of the members an opportunity to speak one time. During their infomercial, they had to do their infomercial and their I-haves. Are you guys, is that kind of how everybody's doing it across the board? The other thing is, you know, we're not having a membership person get up and speak. So the amount of times that we're actually speaking during these meetings has really decreased, which I'm not a super big fan of. So just wanted to find out how everybody else was handling that, and if this is just kind of the new norm.
Anybody else want to share? I can share.
Yeah, sure. I could share. I'm Dawn, and we've had 2 so far, and everybody's been showing up. We have, you know, we're not a huge group. We're only 12, and we were on a big building thing right before this happened. So it's kind of like, oh gosh, we've been a little shut down, but everybody's engaged. We do let everybody do their 1-minute presentation. And then after that, their testimonials after the speaker. So, I mean, they do get 2 chances to speak, the VP does their report. The treasurer doesn't do a report, and no networking events. So
Right.
other than if you have something that's a Zoom event, we've been advertising. The PR person has been doing that. We've been still trying to do some public relations on our Facebook page. Just we did who the speaker was, and
Right.
just took a picture of our screen and put that on Facebook. So we're just trying to run it as close to normal as possible.
Okay.
But yeah, we find it's a much shorter meeting. I think we're done in probably like 40 minutes. But everybody is still speaking.
Okay. Anybody else doing anything differently?
We had our first one yesterday, and our group is very personally connected. We've all grown very close. So we did do the opening networking, and we also had a visitor, and she was also a part of the networking, which was really nice to see. The person who invited her engaged her, so the rest of us engaged with her. So I think we had made good use of those 15 minutes. And then we did the same thing where we do a 45-second pitch, and then your referrals or testimonials, did it all together at once. But we did have the membership person speak, the VP, the education person, they all did. We're using video. So they all did their part, and we got through our meeting in about an hour. I thought it went really, really well.
And when you say video, do you mean they did
the Zoom?
It's all the Zoom.
Video.
Okay. Okay.
How many members, Tanya?
Pardon?
How many members do you have?
We're about 27. I think we had 26 on the call yesterday.
Okay.
Okay.
Just for
we did do the PowerPoint for the speaker worked really well.
Okay.
Yep.
But no questions allowed during the presentation, and everybody had to type in their questions.
Yeah. I think, Dawn, having a group of 12, you're going to get all the flexibility you want, right? And as you get to 27, you have a little bit more, right? You combine the two, but you have a little bit more flexibility to get through that in an hour and 15 minutes. We're 38, and we had to pare back even more. And so for efficiency, we took, and you could have a 30 to 35 second commercial and say one testimonial or one referral, and anything else you wanted to share, you did it in the chat box. So to get rid of all the extra fluff that, because a lot of our members can talk forever if you let them go, we put it all in the chat box on the side, and you could see, okay, I did 4 one-to-ones and this person's great, or I had a referral for X, Y, and Z, and it was in the sidebar, and that was much better. And they also, like, if they had a specific ask, like a person they were asking for, it made it easier rather than me jotting it down on a piece of paper. In the chat box, I could actually see the spelling and exactly who they were looking for. So that worked well to try and create some efficiency. But I agree with you, Diana. I'm struggling with the face-to-face in the meeting specifically. I mean, it's kind of, you're just on standby until it's your turn.
Yeah.
My best to jot stuff down, but it's not the same. It's
Right.
it's holding a placeholder, but it's not the same.
Well, and I spoke this first time. It was me and my lender that were speaking, and we didn't do any kind of a PowerPoint or anything. But what I found is I couldn't really see anybody's faces, and so, like, were they listening? Did they? It was interesting to see how very different it was in my interaction with them versus when I'm in person and on Zoom. So yeah, it was weird. It was good that we were able to meet, but like I said, it was just a very different experience for me trying to speak and get across information when I couldn't really even see their faces.
Can I give a suggestion?
Please.
Double or triple down outside the meeting. So take the members and do Zoom calls with 1, 2, 3, 4 members outside the meeting as often as you possibly can. Because everything that you feel that you're missing, I mean, yes, in speaking and the engagement with the audience is one thing, but what you're really missing is what happens before and after the meeting.
Right.
which is those small groups of, hey, what's going on in your world this week, and how can I help you, and having more detailed conversations about that. So we've literally done 5 to 6 one-to-ones every single week since this has started, and just getting in small groups, 2, 3, 4 people, and talking about their businesses, how we can help, what we can do, and how we can move forward. And I still feel super connected to the group that way.
Okay. That's
And
good.
you know, you just got to go all in on that and just schedule them. I mean, my first week I struggled because I couldn't figure out my schedule with 3 kids running around in the background and screaming and everything else. And then finally I just said, look, I got to put on the books. I got to block this hour, and who can I get to fill that slot, and just start putting people in to keep those connections close. BNI is huge in terms of our profitability. We do a massive amount of business out of just our chapter. And so I knew that the moment this started, I had to really start, you know, figuring out ways to connect with the members.
Okay. All right. Good info. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brad,
Anybody?
I have a very big, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a success story.
Okay.
As a result of these meetings, quite frankly. I went to the first meeting and I told you that my group was struggling. We are 9 people strong, and we shouldn't be 9. We should be a bigger meeting. We're in a very affluent area in the South Shore of Massachusetts, and I was getting discouraged. So the group said, you know, you need to start your own group. You need to do something. You know, you shouldn't be carrying this group anymore. So I'm also on the directors of BNI. And so I went to the executive director and asked what to do. And so I am forming my own BNI group now. And I basically told my group that I'm no longer, I'm not renewing my membership, which renews in May. And, you know, they started to scramble. Well, there's 3 people now on that group. They just basically went away, and they're not doing any more meetings. And now my group that is going to start forming through this right now is 14 strong. 14 people have committed in another affluent area. We decided to go to Duxbury, Massachusetts, as opposed to Norwell. And now we have 14 people that are committed to joining. We need 18 to become a charter. And we see no issues with becoming 18 strong. And how we're doing this is, it's not just Zoom. We're texting. We're doing the WhatsApp app. We're doing emails. We got the executive director on board. We're communicating at least 2 to 3 times a week, you know, just staying in touch pretty much actually every other day. Hey, how you doing? Have you brought anybody else on board? And we're getting to pick who we want. Everybody's focused on bringing a visitor. So I just thought I'd tell you that. And it's so easy to pluck the visitors. And that's as a result of the first meeting that we had online. So thank you for kind of stirring it up a little bit. It was really exciting for me.
Awesome, Trish. That's a great success story. And for those of you that weren't on the first call, Trish came to us and said, I have 9 members in the group, and I brought you had brought 8 visitors or something like that for your visitors
19.
day. 19. Sorry, I got it off
Yeah.
by a little bit. And it was very apparent that your influence was much greater than what everyone else in the group was willing to pull. And so I hope I didn't disband your group, but I thought it was a really good play for you to start your own and pick the key players that were going to be advocates. And it looks like it's going the right direction for you. So congrats.
Good job.
It's great. I love hearing that story. I love it. And I hear referrals being passed amongst members, et cetera. One of the things that I've been bringing up in each one of these meetings is, what are you doing in your own database? It could be with your BNI members, but what are you also doing in your own database right now to generate conversations? Anybody have anything that they'd like to share?
Yeah, I've been sending a very short text message to everybody in my sphere, whether they're my current clients, potential clients, or sphere of influence. It's a very simple message saying, just checking in on you during these challenging times. Please let me know if you need anything. If I can't help, I should know someone who can. Stay safe. And I've been getting fantastic response on that. My biggest challenge is remembering who I sent it out to or not. I actually accidentally sent that message to the same person within 4 or 5 days apart, and it kind of felt a little foolish afterwards. So, just be careful of doing that. But other than that, the return has been fantastic on that. And that goes for not only, it also goes for potential recruits for your office, if you're into doing that as well. It works very well.
That's great. And do you have an Android or an iPhone?
Android.
Okay, so I learned this. Actually, I think it's somebody in your market center that taught me this.
Okay.
That you can schedule text messages in advance on an Android. So you can track who you sent it to, the day that you sent it, and have it happen in batches.
Yeah.
So that you're not overwhelmed by responses coming back to you. Like if I send out 700 text messages today, I'd go crazy.
Right.
But you can do like 10 a day or 15 a day and know who you sent them out to. I'm still learning how to do it on an iPhone.
You know what I wish there was? There's services like Textedly or Twilio or any of these other services, except the number that the recipient receives is not your cell phone number. And some of them do and some of them don't forward the text message back to your original cell phone. But either way, it's not a valid phone number. A lot of times that the text is coming from when you use one of those batch services. I wish there was a service where I could just like upload my database, say blast this text message out to everybody and have it come from my cell phone number. So if anybody knows of a service like that, I'm all ears.
The only thing that I know of is that Twilio can host your voice over IP line and have it come from your business number.
Okay.
So we're actually looking into shifting that right now because our voice over IP is worthless right now.
Right.
So Twilio will host your number. You can transfer it there, and they can host your voice and your batch text messages from your business line.
Not a bad idea. Right.
What's the name of that?
Would you mind repeating what you are putting in your text message?
Yeah,
again?
sure. Hold on. Okay, so let me just see one that I sent.
Why don't you
I'll put it in the chat box. I'll put it in the chat box. Yep. And I sent a private message to Carolyn. If you could just include your email address, I'd love to, stay in touch with you. Okay. I'll put the text message in there that I sent.
Okay.
Awesome. What else are we doing? Text message is one idea. Trish?
I have an idea. One of the things I'm doing is I'm reaching out to all of the realtors and small business owners. There's a lot of things changing with unemployment. There's a lot of loan programs out for those small businesses. So I am honing in especially on the business owners. In our BNI groups, we should be doing this as well. Letting these small business owners know about these grants that are available for small business owners, letting them know about unemployment opportunities for realtors and things like that. So I'm reaching out to all parties about that. I'm just trying to make sure, like right now we might be okay, but what about in a month or two? So that's some of the things I'm doing. I mean, granted, as also I'm reaching out, how are you doing? How's everything going? But to keep people afloat, these small business owners need to know that there are resources available, and kind of being the source of the source for these small business owners, it's instrumental.
One thing that we've done is we've focused on education and communication with small business and individuals. So actually, I just got done this morning with an hour-long Zoom call that we've recorded that shares everything from how do you apply for an SBA loan, what is the PPP program, how do you investigate whether or not it's appropriate for you or not to postpone your payments on your mortgage, talking to your credit card companies, and talking to your car loan companies as well, how to furlough all these payments and everything else if it's something that's essential for you. So we're sharing all that information. In addition, we're taking our BNI members, like our property manager in our group manages over 2,000 units across 3 states. So he's a big property manager. He's talking to attorneys daily. He's really getting into the eviction proceedings and what's going to happen and what's furloughed and what's not. So we're doing interviews with people like him and sharing that with our database and other property owners. and doing as much as we can to share what we know from the resources that we have. Because I think the media does a terrible job of, you know, you can miss your payment for the next 3 months. I feel like that's what they're telling you. And that's not reality. The reality is you need to talk to your servicer and find out if it's an option and what's going to happen at the other side of 90 days. Because a lot of these furloughs and forbearance programs are going to have a balloon payment in 90 days. And they're going to go into foreclosure or loan modification if that happens to a lot of these people. So educating people to make the right choices today so that they're ready and being the forefront of that is our whole goal. The other thing that we did is we started just calling people and saying, what do you need? How can I deliver something to you? Our team is out and about. We're essential, but you're a senior, you need groceries, we'll pick them up. You know, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that you're taken care of and that you're safe, because that's what we can do right now. We have the ability to do so. And, you know, and to get some jokes back, I got somebody in New Jersey. So if you're in New Jersey and can deliver a pizza for me to one of my past clients, that'd be great. But, you know, it's just a good conversation to have, whether or not we're doing a ton of it and people are actually raising their hand for it. It's certainly something that we're happy to do, and people know that we're there if they need us.
Yeah.
What else?
One thing that I've done is, because I know everybody's home, is to work with my lender, offering refi packages out. It's been a real, even people that bought within a past year, just checking in with them and letting them know what the new rates are and how much they can save. So we're kind of doing a little power team thing, and I'm reaching out to people that we've sold to.
Awesome.
Mhm.
One thing that we're focused on with our lender on that topic is anyone we have in pipeline. So we're now in California, we're considered essential again. I don't know what that means one way or the other, but we're still selling properties. We're still, I put a listing on this morning where we have 2 buyers in negotiations right now. But we are taking every single potential active client that's looking to buy, and we're re-scrubbing them through underwriting. Yesterday, Wells Fargo stopped their correspondent lines, which is a huge notice for everyone in the real estate community that this is going to change and it's going to be rocky for some time. 65% of all of Wells Fargo loans come out of correspondent lines. And they've literally said, we're going to focus on retail and we're not going to do any correspondent lending right now. Well, that's huge. And they're not going to be the last. So we're making sure that we have people with anyone that's over the conforming limits. We're making sure that they're with a broker or a banker who can broker out. And we're also getting them through underwriting a second time to make sure that they're ready in any case, right? So we've been talking with all of our lenders that we work with, one of which our main lenders in BNI with us, and just making sure that anybody who's considering, whether it's VA, FHA, you know, conventional, jumbo, anything that we know that they're going to be able to get through it. On the other side of that coin is our listings. We are being really strict on who we accept. I mean, really knowing that the agent knows the buyer well, that they understand the lending package, talking with the lender, cross-qualifying them with our lender to make sure that there's a conduit or an avenue that they would be able to get into, even if something happened. So we're getting really serious about that and putting people through a lot of extra work just to make sure that they're ready. And those that are sitting on the sidelines, we're doing the same thing, right? That I know aren't going to buy today, but we're putting them back through the ringer with the lender just to make sure that we're ready to go.
Brad, are you putting them through the ringer just to get them in for showings too? Because we have like all these forms that they have to fill out, and it's really just being for the care of the homeowner. We want to make sure that people are serious coming in to look.
I'm not. I mean, yes, California just released their showing form where you're supposed to sign on every single showing with a buyer, and have our listing addendum reflect a disclosure as well. I don't think that I need to go and scrub someone on the buy side to show a property. I think that's intrusive. Most of our most of our listings are vacant. We do have one right now that's occupied, in which case, we've had a conversation with our sellers and the seller just wants to bring the activity. They're fine. Bring in the activity, make sure people get to the table, and then go from there. So I think it's case by case basis. What else you got? What are you doing?
Hey guys,
Kate?
I joined late. How you doing?
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, so I just spoke with my broker. I'm from Rochester, Michigan, and he notified me if we get caught showing a home, it could be a $10,000 fine. So it's pretty strict. They're talking about revoking your licenses, but I'm trying to find out if that's a fact. And I know it's a misdemeanor if you're caught showing a house. So
Wow.
pretty strict here in Michigan. I don't know if that's the rest of the country or not, but it's pretty scary.
That's rough.
Yeah, well, in California, I know you guys are less restricted, correct?
Well, we were given guidelines,
Okay.
which were very stern when they came out,
Okay.
that said that we were not to show property and we were not to really do anything in person.
Okay.
Now, those were interpreted in a variety of different ways,
Sure.
from people not stopping anything to people sheltering in place, closing the doors, and not talking to their clients.
Right.
So there's a big variety of what is taking place. That has since been lifted. So on Monday, they changed that, and then they came out with California Association of Realtors came out with new guidelines that said you're essential, and here's what you can do.
Okay.
So they've reinstated that you can do showings, but do them virtually if at all possible. And if you are going into a home that only one person should accompany with you and should keep 6 feet and shouldn't touch anything. If there's a spouse, they should sit in the car and then you should switch, that kind of thing. And I think every state's different in how they're going through the process. And we're definitely not misdemeanor for showings. But I think people treated it that way when we were non-essential. They were definitely taking a big step back and not showing, and it's definitely had an impact on our activity. But then I just put one on the market, and there's 4 showings this afternoon.
All right. Good.
So, I think that's a good thing, and it's re-stimulated.
All right. Thank you.
Well, and I think for California too, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, it really makes a difference whether or not the home is vacant or occupied. I mean, if the home is occupied, we're obviously doing things a lot different than if it was vacant. But like Brad said, I know for myself, if a buyer wants to see a property, they have to do a bunch of different things before I'll actually go out and meet them and show it to them. Yes, they have to be pre-qualified. Yes, they have to go buy the house a couple different times to make sure they like the neighborhood. Yes, we're asking for disclosures up front, and we're really scrutinizing those pictures to make sure that, if we're going to go into a property, especially if it's vacant, they better make sure that they're ready to ride on that property if I'm going to meet them up with them. That's kind of how I'm handling that.
Good. Jeff left. He didn't want to listen. I think it's, every area is going to be different, right? So how we handle it, how we go about it, I mean, we're doing everything we can to make it as simple as possible. One thing that I'll share with you that we're doing, not with our active clients, but with all of our past clients, is we're just finding any way to engage with them. Dropping stuff by their doorstep, having happy hours, we did our first coffee with the Seaman team this morning, where we dropped off 50 mugs. We have these cool, let me see if I can find one here. We have these cool like San Diego mugs that we had, set up that we were sending as little gifts here and there to different clients. We took 50 of them and we delivered them across the region and invited them to come have coffee and talk real estate, talk SBA loans, talk anything that they wanted to know about, and get them into a Zoom chat room. Now, here's what I'll share with you. It failed miserably. I had a realtor show up. I had all sorts of different people that I wasn't intending to target show up to the actual Zoom call. But what I did is I pivoted really quick, knowing that with my low subscription rate to the call, and I made it a presentation instead of a chat like this. And we recorded the whole thing, and we're going to deliver it back out to them.
Nice.
So
Very
the
good.
hope is that we'll build momentum though, and people will actually, we're going to do it every Friday morning at 9, and we're hoping that we'll build momentum and people will show up to it. Wasn't perfect, but it was a reason to contact them. I think they probably appreciate the mug and the contact more than anything, and hopefully, you know, we can just stay in front of them. What
That's
else
a
you
good
got?
idea.
What else are we doing? Everybody feeling like they're going to be okay through this?
Yeah, what's the latest as far as, is every single state in a lockdown position or shutdown position?
No.
Okay. That's kind of,
Not Alabama.
I'm surprised.
Not yet.
Connecticut, we're considered essential. Us, our movers, our inspectors, our lenders. So it's not business as usual, but we are considered essential to get deals done.
Our
Connecticut.
governor,
Same in Wisconsin. We're considered essential.
I would love to be considered essential. Our governor wants to shut down Michigan for 70 more days.
New York
Wow,
was
I just
considered
had
essential
a-
as of yesterday.
Yeah. What's that?
New York was
Todd, I
just
just had
considered
a-
essential as of yesterday. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tanya.
No, I was kidding. Todd, I just had a call with some Michigan agents this morning, and none of them mentioned that they were on such a strict lockdown.
Yeah.
And have to reach back out.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of different information from our local board to our brokers to our managers telling us 3 different things.
Yep.
And so,
What about your state board? Have you contacted them?
we have, and the last conversation I had with our board was, it is a misdemeanor if you get caught showing a home, and according to our broker, it could be a $10,000 fine. So those are the 2 things that we verified. But
Sounds like somebody needs to talk to your governor, because if the other states are considered essential, you should be too.
I would think so. My wife thinks I'm essential.
We still
I'm
have
just
that going
scared
for
of
you.
using that as an excuse for your
Well, since-
for your wife not to have to go out to work.
Since we're both home, you know, you definitely learn to appreciate your private time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we had the same thing happen where we had 3 tiers of communication happening that were all different, right? So we went non-essential, and then the board, which is the state California Association of Realtors. I mean, they have a lot of influence, and they heavily lobbied to make us essential again, and they succeeded. But during that time, my office was putting out something, our local board was putting out something, and the California Association of Realtors was putting out something different, which was different than the governor's mandate.
Right.
So they all had varying degrees of what was the guideline versus what was actually law. And most of it wasn't law. Almost all of it was just a guideline as to what to follow. The stay in place order was in effect, but the California Association of Realtors came out with a more strict guideline than what we thought. And so that's why we had this mixed message, which you might be receiving too. And so it's finding out what's actual legal and what's not.
Okay.
So I just dig deep into that, and then make things, you know, make it about health and safety first.
Sure.
And then business second.
Thank you.
I forgot, there's one thing I did hear about that we might be able to use in our businesses. The American Institute of Architects, that's an association for the architects. What they're doing is they're doing once a week a lunchtime Zoom meeting where they're calling it in lieu of lunch. We're thinking more of like midday mingle, and where they're having everybody buy your lunch from a local restaurant, get on the Zoom call. They're sharing on their social media the logos or links to the restaurants that they've got their lunch from, and then they're kind of doing positive, you know, networking, just trying to stay connected so people don't feel so isolated. So one of the realtor associations I'm in, we're looking at how to do that with our members, but then I'm also talking to my team about how can we transfer that to our client base as well. And it might work well, Brad, with what you were saying with smaller groups for BNI.
I think that's great. And one of the previous calls, we actually had a nonprofit that they assembled that was not only to do a mingle, but also to buy meals for hospital workers in addition to that. So they would get together, they'd bring some business owners together, they'd have a nonprofit that would actually deliver meals from a local restaurant, not a chain, but a local restaurant to keep them afloat. And they'd deliver 500 meals for lunch to the hospital.
Nice.
But I think, there's a couple other ideas that came out. One was really taking and focusing on like one business, and that could be a restaurant, but it could also be another BNI business, right? What else in BNI can you do? My example was a chiropractor, right? My chiropractor is totally shut down. I sold him a house 3 months ago, and I know this is going to be a challenge for him. I know he's in trouble in terms of carrying his employees and not being able to open up his doors. So I started marketing and talking to him about, look, why don't you offer a package today at a discounted rate that's for 10 adjustments in the future? Why don't you start redirecting and if you build this package, I'll promote the daylights out of it, right? I'll take it to all my clientele and put it in my newsletter and share that my favorite chiropractor is doing this really cool thing. Let's support him, right? And that can go for a restaurant too. Like we could do just like the schools do, you could do a restaurant day, right? Where they give back a portion of their proceeds. Well, you could talk to a restaurant and say, hey, I'm going to drive traffic to you. We want to promote you, and do that lunch, and everybody orders from there, or you have this delivery and helping out that restaurant as best you can. So I love the networking idea, mixing and mingling on it. I think any of these that we implement work. And the question is how do we superpower them so that it's not just 5 of us getting together for lunch and having just a logo. It's how do we bring all of our resources together, all of our BNI resources and outside resources to really to leverage it. So I think it's a great idea, Tanya. Take it and run with it and do it. You guys okay? Everybody okay?
Heck yeah.
All right. The last call that we did, I thought was really cool because there's such a number of people that are leaning into the opportunity as opposed to hiding from it. And I'll share my experience, right? I started out in the worst market possible. I started in 2008. Early 2008 is when I got my license and started in this business. And so I started in a space that everyone thought I was crazy, number one. And number two, it wasn't easy. It was really challenging to get people to stick, to buy properties, to sell properties, but there's a need. There's a number of people that are out there that still have to do this. So we had to lean in. We had to figure out different ways. My team call that I just had with my team was all about completely retracing what our, we call it our 135 or GPS, what our main goal is, what our 3 objectives are to reach that goal, and what are the 5 strategies. When I started this year, I had strategies to support this that were, grand openings for our listings and all these things that are just not possible in today's market. Events, we're big on it. We do 4 events a year, right? And we have them planned. They're in the schedule. Well, that's not working very well. And I don't think that our next one is going to be Top Gun 2 release, where I was going to dress up as Maverick and it was going to be so much fun. I'm all excited about it and ordering costumes and all this stuff. Well, we're probably not going to be meeting in a movie theater to do a Top Gun 2 release. So right now, defining what our pivot is and the direction that we're going with our business, and making sure we have new resources to be able to pivot on this and still engage our clients and still do that business. Right before all this started, our number one arm, and I'll share this with you, this is the nugget I took away from Family Reunion this year, was another agent that I know in the Florida area deals heavily with probates and estates. And it might be something that you all consider moving forward, because it's an essential need no matter what our market is doing. It has to be done. And it's listings that show up no matter what. And his program was very simple. It was sponsor the associations in the bar that have to do with probates and estates, get to know the attorneys, and then basically ask them for business. No different than any other networking partner. Very simple. And with attorneys, he just said, do you have somebody that you recommend on every single probate or trust? And he said 90% of the attorneys say no. 90% of them say, I don't have anybody that I recommend. The other 10% say, yeah, I have somebody. And he just asked, what would it take for me to earn that #1 seat? And he said, in a matter of time, I earned almost every single one of them. So he was up to date on all the probate, updated on all the details, and really getting in front of those attorneys. And so we're pivoting on that right now to figure out, okay, so how do we still engage with the attorneys? How do we interact with them today that's different than what he's doing? Because he's showing up to all their continuing ed moments and all the things that are in person, the luncheons, the parties, etc. How can we get in front of it today? So I ask you guys if you know any opportunities with attorneys or anything that that you might be doing with the attorney space to help me out. Okay, good talk. We'll move on. Maybe it's an idea for you. Maybe you can, explore this with me and still continue down. Trish says she's got some ideas.
Yeah, so this is a lot of information, guys. This couldn't be handled in 5, 10, 15 minutes. Now, a couple of things you need to know. Talk to your estate planning person, because there is estate planning councils, okay, that you join. And I'm on the estate planning council in New England. I am the stupidest person in the room, okay? They're all tax attorneys, financial planners, estate planners. That's all they are. And they all think with one side of the brain, we think with the other side. I'm telling you that right now, okay? So just remember that. Sit down, have one-on-ones with them. Then you pick one estate planner to be your mentor and have them explain lots of little things that you don't know, nuances. The other piece that you want to know with the estate planning is hold on to the investors, because when you have an estate, when you get an estate, so I had a $1.7 million estate in Dorchester. I was able to sell it to an investor who is going to convert those to condos. And I was able to give it to an investor, and now I'm selling the condos. So with a lot of these investments, you're able to kind of, you're always representing the seller. So understand that, and you're always representing the estate. But remember, you can really hone in on turning it into something huge. So that's just some of the tidbits that I want to let you know. But the key piece is to know that there is an estate planning council that you should be involved with first. And you'll be the only realtor on that. So that's #1. And you'll find that out from your estate planner in your BNI group. You'll say, what groups are you in? What networking groups are you in? And that's part 1. We can have a one-on-one after that, and we can talk about estate planning, but that's the first piece you want to get involved with.
Awesome. Appreciate that. So my estate planning attorney is one of the largest in the county and is involved in no associations. So they've been in business for 30 years, and all of their business comes from large-scale seminars. And they don't network with other attorneys. They don't engage at all. They do huge volume, and I've got an opportunity to work with him, but I wanted to expand that. I wanted to get into different segments and more attorneys. And like this gentleman I'm talking about from Florida has 72 attorneys now in his database, like 27 of which refer him business.
Yep.
And that's the place where I want to be.
Right. And the other thing is one of the things you have to realize with estate planning attorneys, time is not of the essence. they have to deal with probate. They deal with the
Yeah.
court. Whereas
Yeah.
with real estate, we deal with that. The other thing that I'm putting together with my estate planning attorney, who's coming over to the new BNI group with me, by the way, is we're putting together a PowerPoint presentation, which is selling your home in an estate, trying time, where we're going to reach out to other estate attorneys to show them how it's done. So we're in the beginning stages as to how to get this together. But once I get it together, I'll share it with you and you can tweak it your way.
Awesome. Thank you, Trish.
That'd be
I
great.
love that, Trish. It's like an untapped field to some extent that, we kind of let happen and they do their thing. But if we can be involved and we can be their resource for that, that sounds amazing.
And you have to also understand that every state is different. So one thing is I can't tap into California. California can't tap into Boston. It's very state specific. So it's all referrals. So, California can refer to Boston, and we could share with our estate planning attorneys in our specific areas. So it could help generate leads for our attorneys as well in our groups.
Great. I love
Hey, I
that.
have a quick question on that. So I know that, I don't know about the other states, but I know here in California, I get a lot of emails and phone calls about doing these probate classes. Is that something that you would recommend, or do you think just going, I've never heard of the Estate Planning Council, which I love, and I'm going to go ahead and try to find out if we have one. But is that something that you would do instead of the classes? Would you do both? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, as you know, if you've ever done an estate, in Massachusetts, it's extremely hard. You need the license to sell and you need all that fun stuff. So it's really kind of like, how you have a first-time home buyer class? This is what the estate planning class, or it's just a way for them to remember you. That's really what it is. But being part of the estate, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it's just a way to get your name out there to other estate planning attorneys.
Okay. Well, and I think getting a mentor might be just as beneficial as going through one of the classes.
Well, I think there's two different angles. So I think, in alltheleads.com is probably the best resource that I've seen in terms of content. They have a probate specific content and certification. Now, I didn't go do the certification. I basically just went to YouTube and started watching all their script practice and what they're doing. But I know for a fact that most of the training that's out there is not about the probate process. It's about how to obtain the probate listings or to buy them as an investor. So most of it's lead generation.
Okay.
In scripting. What Trish is talking about is the other angle. And the other angle is, how do you get in deep with attorneys that can refer you on a regular basis to these opportunities? And like, if I just ran the MLS this year for all probate listings in all of our county, and there's only 3 listing agents that are doing anything in terms of market share in the probate space. And I can guarantee you it's not because of the certification that they have on their signature line. It's because they have 7, 8, 9, 10 high-level probate attorneys that are sending them business on a regular basis. And they just understand the process. They know when to file a notice of proposed action. They know how to communicate in terms of the probate process at a very high level. So what I love is, I think, Trish, you have the better angle overall to get into that space. The education on the other side, I don't think is super beneficial. Lots of people take it and don't do anything with it. And most of the time it's cold calling people who just lost a loved one, right? That's what they're teaching, is how do you cold call effectively and mail to somebody who just lost a loved one that's going to go through this process.
Okay.
If I can add one more piece of information, and this is your thing. Your power team should not be your mortgage broker and your attorney unless they're giving your leads, okay? Your power team should be your estate planner and your financial planner, okay? Your financial advisor and your estate planner. That's who you should be meeting with, because they're the ones that are going to be generating the leads for you. So just keep that in mind. You're generating the leads for your mortgage broker, who's generating the leads for the real estate attorney, right? You're getting your leads from your financial advisor and your estate planner. That's how it should be.
Okay.
Well, I'll interject a little bit on that. I think every single dynamic is different. So like my lender, I think I closed 5 with him last year that he sent to me. And so I was fortunate to have a lender with his own book of business that didn't rely solely on realtors, which I don't think is always the case. So I think it's just finding the dynamic and figuring out who's going to be the best referral partner and power people for you. Like my painter is part of my power team. My painter is awesome at finding leads for me. I mean, he puts me on more listing appointments than anyone else in my group.
Right. I think I misspoke. What I meant is you should try to find the way to word a good angle for, a good referral for me. And I do have a good way of saying a good referral. Like most of your financial planners are telling your clients to do a Zillow. When they sit down with their clients, they are saying, get a Zillow estimate for when they do a financial picture. You should say, no, bring me in because it's going to make you look better and it'll be the warm lead.
Right.
That's great. So everybody, in the interest of time, I'll ask one last time if there's any, 2 things. 1, if anybody has anything else to add. And 2, if you have any outbound referrals right now, something that you're looking to place in a different state, they don't have to be in this group, but if you have anybody that you want to refer, I want to help you find that person and get you connected. Are you talking, Jeff? Because you're muted.
Brad, the only thing I'd say is I had put a message earlier for everybody to put in their contact details so we can keep in touch with each other. For those who joined late, if you could do that, I'll do it again. I'd love to, stay in touch with everybody who was on this meeting.
Great.
Yeah, this is my first meeting with this group, and I've really enjoyed it. I feel like I got so much out of it, and I'm sorry I didn't contribute very much, but maybe next time I'll have something more to contribute.
Well, if you walk away with one thing, that's all that we ask, right? So feel free to jump on the next one. We have 2 more that are next week, and I'll continue doing these probably twice a week. And just want to get to know you all better and locations and everything else. I think that's a huge piece of it. So I appreciate you chipping in on that, Carolyn, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one as well.
Thank you.
And when is the next meeting again? You said you're doing it twice a week. This was my first one too, and I found this incredibly beneficial.
Yeah, so I have, so if you go back into the Facebook group, they're all posted in there under the events tab. But I have one on Tuesday at 1 o'clock Pacific and Friday, same time, so 10:30 a.m. Pacific.
I think this counts as a one-on-one too, right? I don't know.
I don't think my region's going to allow me to put in 175 one-to-ones, but
I think count.
I'll just count it as one.
One.
Feel free. I mean, if you want to put it in as one of the members here in the group or me, that's perfectly fine. I think it's a good hour for us to engage and learn more about each other and get connected. So keep coming to them. I think it's a great way. Do these with your group. Don't just show up to the Zoom meeting once a week. Do these smaller breakouts with your BNI people. Yeah. And if nothing else, do that because I think it will give you a big return out of BNI.
It'd be nice to maybe, have some focus points. Like I mentioned before, our group is small. I'd love to hear everybody's ideas on how to build the group itself. I know they count a lot on us realtors in the group to do a lot. So if I can come back with some ideas, that would be awesome. So.
In growth. Okay, I'll write that down for our next one.
Appreciate
Perfect.
that, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody, for jumping on today. Nice to meet everyone. And look out for the next one. We'd love to see you again.
Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.